The moment I realized my marriage was over, there wasn't a fight. No yelling. No broken things. No dramatic, "we need to talk." It happened on a random Tuesday night, when my best friend forgot to hang up the phone. And I heard something I was never supposed to hear. "My name is Daniel. I'm 35, married. Well, I was married for 7 years. From the outside, my life looked stable. Predictable. The kind of life people say they want when they're tired of chaos. House in the suburbs. Decent job in finance. A wife who laughed at my bad jokes. Her name was Emily. And my best friend, Jake. We'd known each other since we were 19. College roommates. Same stupid decisions, same inside jokes, same history. He was the guy who stood next to me at my wedding. If you asked me 8 months ago who I trusted most in the world, his name would have been right at the top. That's what makes this story efficient. Because betrayal doesn't hurt more when it's complicated. It hurts more when it's simple. Looking back, the first sign wasn't obvious. It never is. It was just a shift. Emily started going to the gym more often. At first, I didn't question it. People get motivated. New routines happen. But then the timing got specific. Same days every week. Same hours. Always in the evening. And around that same time, Jake started being busy. Which was strange, because Jake wasn't a busy person. He worked freelance. Flexible schedule. Random availability. Yet suddenly, every time I suggested grabbing a drink or watching a game, he had something going on. At the time, those were just two separate facts. My wife had a new routine. My best friend had a new schedule. Individually, nothing suspicious. Together, still nothing concrete. But my brain doesn't work in isolated details. It builds patterns. And patterns don't lie. About a month later, something small happened. The kind of detail most people would ignore. Emily got a new passcode on her phone. Now, privacy isn't the issue. But in 7 years, she had never hidden her phone from me. Suddenly, she started turning the screen away when texting. Replying faster. Locking it instantly when I walked into the room. I asked once. New security phase? She smiled. Just being cautious. Reasonable answer. Logically acceptable. But emotionally, off. Then came the night everything started falling apart. I was working late in the living room when Jake called. That alone wasn't unusual. But what was unusual was how quickly he started talking. "Hey, I can't stay long, she'll be." And then silence. A pause. Like he realized something mid-sentence. Man, I'll call you back." Click. He hung up. Now here's the thing. People mess up words all the time. But not like that. Not that specific. "She'll be." Be where? Be what? My brain immediately did what it always does. Rewind. Replay. Analyze. There was only one logical conclusion. He wasn't talking to me the way he thought he was. So I checked something I hadn't checked in a long time. Emily's location. Not because I didn't trust her, but because now I needed to confirm something. And what I saw didn't make sense. She wasn't at the gym. She was across town. In Jake's neighborhood. That's the moment the pattern stopped being a theory and started becoming a timeline. I sat there for about 30 seconds. No anger. No panic. Just clarity. Because once you see it, your brain stops protecting you. So I grabbed my keys. And I drove. The entire drive felt quiet. Like my mind had already accepted the outcome before I even got there. Jake's place wasn't hard to find. I had been there dozens of times. But pulling into that street that night felt different. Because this time, I wasn't visiting. I was verifying. And then I saw it. Emily's car. Parked right outside his apartment. No hesitation. No doubt. Just confirmation. I sat in my car for a minute. Not because I needed time, but because I understood something very clearly. Once I walked up to that door, there was no version of my life where things stayed the same. So I got out. walked up, and knocked. Footsteps inside. A pause. Then Jake opened the door, and the look on his face told me everything before a single word was spoken. Daniel. I didn't say anything. I just looked past him, and there she was, my wife, standing in his living room, wearing a shirt I had never seen before. And suddenly, every missing piece of the last 2 months snapped into place at once. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and said the only thing that made sense. How long? Silence. And that's when I knew. This wasn't going to be a conversation. This was going to be a confession. For a few seconds, neither of them said anything. That silence. It's louder than any argument. Because silence means they're not figuring out if they're guilty. They're figuring out what version of the truth to give you. Emily was the first to speak. Daniel, I held up my hand. No. Don't start with that. My voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that doesn't come from control, but from certainty. I looked at Jake. Answer the question. He swallowed. About 2 months. 2 months. Exactly the length of time my instincts had been trying to get my attention. I nodded slowly. Good. At least we're being accurate. Emily stepped forward. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I almost smiled. That sentence should be illegal at this point. Jake ran a hand through his hair. Man, listen. No, I cut him off. You don't get to say man anymore. That expired the second you decided this was a good idea. That shut him up. Then I did what I always do. I broke it down, piece by piece. Gym nights, I said, looking at Emily. Those weren't gym nights. Silence. Jake being busy every time I called. I looked at him. That wasn't work. More silence. And the phone behavior. I looked back at her. That was just you trying to keep the timeline from collapsing. Emily started crying, which, honestly, didn't change anything, because tears don't undo patterns. They just show up when the pattern gets exposed. So here's what I don't understand, I continued. You both had access to me. You could have ended things. Walked away clean. I gestured between them. But instead, you chose overlap. Jake finally spoke. It just happened. There it was again. The universal excuse. It always just happens, I said. Right up until it destroys everything. Then I asked the only question that actually mattered. Was this ever going to stop? That's the question people aren't ready for. Because it forces honesty beyond the moment. Emily hesitated. Jake looked at the floor. And that hesitation, that was the real answer. Not the affair. Not the lies. The fact that if I hadn't shown up, this would still be happening. I exhaled slowly. All right. That's enough. Emily's voice cracked. Daniel, please, we can fix this. No. I shook my head. You don't fix something by setting it on fire first. Then I turned to Jake. And you. I paused for a second. Not because I needed to think, but because I wanted him to understand every word. You're not my friend anymore. You're just a guy I used to know. No yelling. No threats. Just removal. And somehow, that hit harder. I walked toward the door. Emily followed. Where are you going? Home, I said. You can come tomorrow. Get your things. Daniel. No. This time, there was no calm in my voice. Decision already made. Just not by me. And with that, I left. 1 year later. Here's the part people don't expect. They didn't last. Not even close. About 8 months later, I ran into someone from our old friend group. Apparently, their relationship turned into exactly what you'd predict. Jealousy. Accusations. Trust issues. Funny how that works. When a relationship starts with betrayal, trust doesn't magically appear later. It just becomes the next problem. They broke up. Messy, from what I heard. which means they traded a stable marriage and a lifelong friendship for something that couldn't even survive a year. That's not karma. That's math. As for me, life got quieter, cleaner, better, in ways I didn't expect. And here's the part I've had time to think about. The worst part of betrayal isn't losing people. It's realizing the version of them you trusted was never real to begin with. Anyway, that's my story. So now I'm curious. If your best friend and your partner betrayed you like this, would you ever forgive them? Or is that a line you don't come back from? Let me know in the comments. And if you like real stories, messy ones, honest ones, the kind that don't wrap up perfectly, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Because, trust me, people make terrible decisions every single day. And sometimes, you don't see the truth until it's already standing right in front of you. The strange thing about betrayal is that the moment it ends, everything gets quieter. Not better, just quieter. No more late-night questions in your head. No more trying to connect dots that don't want to be connected. No more pretending something feels normal when it clearly isn't. Just silence. The first few weeks after everything happened were mechanical. Lawyer meetings, paperwork, dividing things that used to feel shared. You don't realize how many small things in your life are tied to another person until you have to separate them. Furniture, subscriptions, even routines. Especially routines. Friday nights used to mean something. Now they were just empty space. But here's the part that surprised me. I wasn't angry. Not in the way people expect. There was no urge for revenge. No dramatic, they'll regret this energy. Just a very clear understanding of what happened. And why? Because once you remove emotion from the equation, the situation becomes simple. Two people made repeated decisions that benefited them in the moment. And they didn't stop. That's it. No deeper mystery. No hidden meaning. Just choices. And choices have outcomes. A few months later, I ran into Jake. Completely by accident. Gas station. Middle of the day. Nothing dramatic. For a second, we just stood there. Two people who used to know everything about each other. Now reduced to silence. He looked worse. Not physically. Just worn down. Like life had been heavier than expected. "Hey," he said carefully. I nodded. "Hey." Awkward doesn't even begin to describe that moment. He shifted his weight. "Listen. I know I don't deserve it, but I just want to say." I stopped him. "You're right. You don't." Not aggressive. Just accurate. He looked down. And for a second, I could see it. Regret. Real regret. But here's the thing about regret. It shows up after the damage is done. It doesn't prevent anything. "I'm not mad anymore," I added. And that was true. "I just don't have a place for you in my life." That hit him harder than anything else could have. Because anger still means connection. Indifference. That's final. I got in my car and left. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. As for Emily, we never had a moment like that. No closure conversation. No long emotional goodbye. Just distance. Clean and permanent. And honestly, that was better. Because closure is overrated. Most of the time, it's just people trying to feel better about something that doesn't have a good explanation. Now here's the part people always ask me. Do you think karma got them? And my answer is always the same. No. I don't think karma is some cosmic force keeping score. I think people create their own outcomes. You lie, you break trust, you build something on a weak foundation. Eventually, it collapses. Not because the universe punishes you, but because that's how unstable things work. So no, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need anything bad to happen to them. Because they already made decisions that guaranteed it. And me. I moved on. New place. New routines. New people. But more importantly, a different standard. Because once you've seen what betrayal looks like up close, you stop ignoring the small signs. You stop explaining things away. you start paying attention. Anyway, that's the full story. No dramatic ending. No perfect resolution. Just reality playing out exactly the way it tends to. So now I'll leave it to you. If you were in my position, would you have handled it differently? Would you have confronted them sooner? Tried to fix it? Or walked away the same way I did? Let me know in the comments. And if you're into real stories like this, the kind where people make bad decisions and have to live with them, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Because the truth is, stories like this aren't rare. Most people just don't talk about them. And if I'm being honest, there's one more thing I realized after all of this. Betrayal doesn't just change how you see other people. It changes how you see yourself. For a while, I kept replaying everything in my head. Every conversation. Every moment I ignored something that felt off. Trying to figure out where I missed it. But the truth is, I didn't miss anything. I just trusted. And trusting someone isn't a mistake. That's something people get wrong all the time. They treat trust like a weakness after it's broken. It's not. It's a risk. And sometimes that risk doesn't pay off. That doesn't mean you stop trusting completely. It just means you get better at recognizing when something doesn't add up. Because looking back now, the signs were there. Not obvious. Not undeniable. But present. And I chose comfort over questioning. That's human. But it's also something you learn from. No. I don't ignore that feeling anymore. That quiet moment where something seems slightly off. Because that's usually where the truth starts. Not in big dramatic events, but in small inconsistencies. Anyway, that's really the end of it. No revenge story. No dramatic comeback. Just a situation that played out exactly as the choices led it to. And honestly, that's enough. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you sticking through the whole story. And I'll ask you one last time. What would you have done differently? Because everyone thinks they know. Until they're the one standing at that door. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stick around for more real stories like this. Because, trust me, this kind of thing happens more often than people admit. And the truth is, most betrayals don't start with one big mistake. They start with small decisions people think won't matter. Until one day, everything does.